what is your advice to a youngster?
Okay, I think the first, nothing really defined us. Your past is certainly not not something that's going to define you. Even if, no matter if it is good, fantastic. If it's not, you can always come out of it. That's the first thing that I would say. And in terms of the MBA, I did mention this before. Do an MBA because you want to learn, not because you want to get a qualification. Uh, uh, that's very important. There's a deeper meaning when I said that, to learn but not to get obtain qualification. It's not, the list of qualifications that you have, how much you learn out of it. Learn the MBA to become a master of multitasking, I would say, rather than becoming a master of one particular field, but by multitasking without compromising another. Of course, end of the day, yes, you are going through one of the most difficult and challenging times. Challenging personally. For you, your friends, your families is extremely challenging for a whole lot of different reasons. Whatever the organization that you are working in Sri Lanka, no doubt each of those organizations are going through a tough patch. The society is going through a difficult patch. Country is going through a difficult patch. So naturally, it kind of, it's not the greatest place to be. Tendencies to, that negativity around us make us also negative. But, you have come this far as an MBA student because you have proven your capabilities and try to believe in you, believe in your ability, to continue to believe in you and continue to believe in your ability to, have that determination to move on, because it's easy to give up. That's the easiest thing to do. Just say, things are tough. I'm going through a difficult patch. My parents, my family is going through a difficult patch. My organization is, I'll probably come back to this later, but I'm not going to continue. That's the easiest thing to do. Stay put and fight hard is my first advice to all of you. And never ever give up. If you ask me personally, I have gone through so much of challenges. Had I given up at that moment, I wouldn't have achieved it.
On behalf of the organization and our CEO Roshana Godagi and other board of directors and also the student population, I would like to say big thank you for being with us today. And as you know, Jude, that APIT is known for a quality education, but we believe that not only the education is basically we have to go beyond extra mile, not only for to get the knowledge and the experience. Is basically we believe that we need to have some surrounding experience, and we want to produce well-rounded personalities for the society. So that is why people like you, the opinion leaders like you are there to share your experience along with the population of student population. And also we have a huge network that follow our CEOs forum that you are being about. This is your 85th, 86th CEO. Every week that, is a great initiative done by Dr. Rohan Tatukoral. The purpose is to basically to have a direct interaction with you. Today, the audience, it has spread to the diplomatic corps and ambassadors, to outside viewers, and also students, the teachers. So vast population, they are getting direct interactions. And Dr. Rohanta will explain how it will amplify this discussion among all our viewer the front. So thank you being, having a very hectic schedule, and that you are accepting our invitation today for the betterment of students in Sri Lanka. So, end of the day, you and me are in corporates like Dr. Rohanta. We have to do something for the society. I believe that what you are doing is right, that, so giving back to the society. So I hope you are enjoying more than the sort of satisfaction is there. So once again, thank you very much for being with us. And also, I would like to say a big thank you from Epic side. So thanks a lot, Jude. Continue with your effort. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman of APIT, who is also the Vice President of Nestle and the President of the Industrial Association of Sri Lanka. We have a fantastic guest today. He is the Managing Director of Hemas Pharmaceuticals. Prior to rejoining Hemas, he served as the Direct Chief Executive Officer of Janashakti Insurance PLC since 2014. He brings with him over 28 years of experience in senior positions across the fields of finance, supply chain, sales and marketing, and international marketing. He has worked across many different industries in the capacity of Director CEO of Janashakti Insurance, Director CEO of Kotmale PLC, Executive Director and Sales and Marketing for Cargill's manufacturing brands. He has served on the boards of Dunami Capital, Kelsey Homes, First Capital Holdings, and he started his career in the fields of finance. And he's also a supply chain professional with over a decade of experience in different positions. He has held at supply chains of Hemas manufacturing prior to getting into supply chain as well as head of finance at Royal Ceramics Lanka PLC. At present, he is the Managing Director of Hemas Pharmaceuticals PLC, Managing Director of Hemas Surgical Diagnostics, and Chairman of HealthNet International Private Limited, and also Chairman of Life Connect Solutions Private Limited, an accountant by profession, has an MBA from the University of Wales, and is a fellow member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants UK, Chartered Global Management Accountant UK, a fellow member of the Associate Certified Chartered Accountants UK, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. He has also completed the Executive Leadership Development Program at Stanford Graduate School of Business and INSEAD. Ladies and gentlemen, the Managing Director of Hemas Pharmaceuticals Private Limited and the Managing Director of Hemas Surgical and Diagnostics Private Limited, Chairman of HealthNet International Private Limited, Jude Fernando. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rohanta. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Bandula, for inviting me. Thanks, Rohanta, for that introduction. Rohanta, I'm not sure whether my screen is visible.
Clear, Jude. We can put it on widescreen.
All right. Okay. So first of all, once again, thank you for inviting me. Just for the rest of the audience, Rohanta happens to be. I mean, we both come from the same great college. Apart from that, he happens to be my lecturer as well when I did my MBA, and he was the marketing lecturer at that time. And I'm glad that I got an opportunity to share some of my experiences with another batch of MBA student from office. So I'm glad that I got this opportunity, and thank you very much for inviting me. So I'll go straight to the topic. It's about the industry that I'm working at the moment, which is pharmaceutical industry, and what the industry is all about and what challenges to be face now. So I'm briefly touching upon the industry plus the challenges, and leaving on the request of Rohanta. I'm leaving the rest of the time for an interaction session where I could answer any questions if there's any. Give me a minute, please. Down again. It's down. No, it's down. Right. Okay. All right. So let me start off with the industry. So Sri Lanka pretty much depend heavily on imports for its pharmaceutical needs in this country. 84% of our pharmaceuticals are imported, with about 16% being locally manufactured. So one important point to understand is that we as a nation actually depend heavily on imports, very important and critical industry like pharmaceutical. Out of our imports, we actually get a lot of bulk of our imports actually come from regions which is India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. as much as we actually are all the major, I would say all key principles across the globe are represented in the country. Top-notch innovative people like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, to Lilly's, and everyone else is actually represented both in pharmaceutical and diagnostic business. In our local manufacturing, it's relatively small, which is by and large catering to the tender market, which is the government hospital market. We do have a very, very small export business in the country at the moment, relatively, insignificant, I would say. But the important point is it's been also imported to some good countries like Japan and UK. So it has potential to grow, but I'll come back to one of the objectives that was set by the government when this government came to power. But the objectives, I'll take you through that subsequently. But I think this is something we can get into exports in a big way as much as get into local market. It will have a value well for the country as well as the people. So in terms of, if you look at how the private market has grown over the years, you can see from the screen, there's no consistency at all. You had a relatively low growth in 2 years, 16, 17, and 18, and then reasonably double-digit growth in 2 years, back again, dropped to 5%, and last year it had a 27% growth. The reason being, we are a regulated industry. So, as a result, there are a whole lot of other constraints and restrictions around the industry. And the double-digit growth that you see are mainly due to price increases that the regulator granted to us. So that means the volume growth has not been so significant. Of course, having said that, there is a volume growth, but not very significant. In terms of market share, Hemas is the largest player. And importantly, if you look at, it's not working, is it? Is it moving now? No. Oh, okay. Let me do that. Okay, sorry about it. Randa, is it moving now? It's moving, right? Okay, I'll move to the next one. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, sorry about the technical issue. So coming again, if you look at the industry in the market, the first 5 players of the industry actually contribute more than 60% of the market share. Now, having said that, the pharma industry also is an industry with a very big tail. It's not that this industry have large number of players. There are a few reasons behind it. One is also the spin-off, like when the industry, how it works is industry is represented by agents manager, because all these agencies have an operation here with the manager, and they attach to one of the distributor like us. And some of those agency managers spin it off. They create a unit of their own and take a bit of agencies away. So as a result, there are a lot of small agencies actually doing quite a good service to the nation also. And these players can be active regionally. Some of them are active even across the country. So as a result, there are a lot of small players in the industry as well. But by and large, it's pretty much dominated by 5 or 6 players contributing large segment or quite a significant portion of the industry. In terms of, let me know if the screen is moving or not. Is it okay, Rhonda?
That's fine, Jude. Thank you.
Okay, also just to give you a flavor of the supply chain of pharma. Now, I purposely picked, how it is applied to Sri Lankan market. So which means I have left out the manufacturing aspect of it. But if I have to talk about the manufacturing, the pharma industry, one of the biggest thing is research and development. There's, once that is done, rest of the supply chain pretty much is same as it would be for any other industry. So in our Sri Lankan context, we are pretty much dominated by imports. So you have principals, which is the pharmaceutical company in somewhere else in the country, in the world. which one of the distributors represent them, and then those product comes to the market through those distributors. Now, one important aspect to be kept in mind, the principals cannot bring pharmaceutical products directly to the country without a representation. The reason being, we are a regulated industry. So being a regulated industry, NMR is our regulator. The product, there is a whole long process of product registration, quality checking, site registration, which is, and there are a lot of regulatory governing pharmaceutical product entering the country quite obviously. There has to be quality control measurements in place to ensure that only the good quality products come to the market. So as a result, you have to have a kind of a representative in this country who will coordinate between the principal and the NMRA or the regulator. It doesn't mean that we don't have country officers also being set up, but most of them, even if they do, unless they handle the entire operation in the country, they are always linked up to a distributor, which is pretty much what is happening in this country. So then it comes to a warehouse. Now these pharmaceutical warehouses are again controlled, environmentally controlled because of the nature of the product. Plus, there are a lot of regulation governing the products being stored, managed, and distributed. Then there are a few channels that these products goes into. Of course, distributor, which like any other industry, you have the distributors distributing to the pharmacies across the country. And then you have the hospital, which is the private hospitals. It could be the hospitals, the smaller units, and I think that's the second channel. The public hospitals are the third, which is the largest. We have one of the best healthcare systems in the world in Sri Lanka. So we have district hospitals, we have smaller hospitals across the country. So those hospitals are the other channel, and of course, the emerging channel today is the online pharmacy, which delivers to the consumer. But end result is finally it's all these through all these channels, it's reach to the patient. In terms of if you look at the pharma footprint, if you look at unlike general trade, where you have a large number of outlets, pharma industry is pretty concentrated with about 3,000 pharmacies. We have, this term is stocking doctors. What does that mean? Stocking doctors are the doctors who are working in the hospitals, and then they have their, so-called private practice, not assigned to a hospital like RCD or whatever, but having their own set up in mainly outskirts of Colombo and across the country. So there are about 6,000 such doctors who are practicing. So again, as we all know, they also dispense medicine once after the consultation. So that's another channel. And of course, there are modern trade outlets, which are not necessarily the pharmaceutical, but other related products are being sold. In terms of industry landscape, we have about 5,000 reps plus reps in the industry, 3,500 plus medical delegates whose job is to kind of educate the doctors with all the products, their features, but how those can be prescribed. And so these are the guys who are kind of do knowledge sharing with the doctors, with the medicine that the agency or principle that they represent market in this country. As I said, Sri Lanka, we actually have almost all the key principles across the globe. We have 300 plus such principles in Sri Lanka, catering to all sorts of molecules and therapeutic classes. And of course, if you look at, there are about 96 odd therapeutic classes all in all. But if you look at the concentration, 25% of those actually contribute to 80% of the turnover in the pharmaceutical industry. This is what I mentioned initially. The government actually, this government, when they were elected, they actually came up with a plan to bring about self-sufficiency into pharmaceutical. Quite understandably, as I said, we Sri Lanka depend heavily on imports. So I think at least if there's a self-sufficiency or not, reducing this dependency on import is a very important step. So that was initiated with different pharmaceutical parks being established in 3 different places in the country. And now the objective is, of course, to minimize the forex outflow, and of course to ensure that the access to, without compromising actually the access to the medicine to the patients. And the part that they selected for this is not import rationalization, but import rationalization, not complete substitution, which makes a lot of sense. And the government objective, or the other one, is to create 1 billion pharmaceutical exports by 2030. Now, that's, I would say, is quite an ambitious target. There are a few reasons why I say so. A is the fact that we are quite a late entrance to the pharmaceutical industry. A lot of regional players, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they have gone a long way in terms of establishing themselves as strong pharmaceutical manufacturing players. So for us to come at this late and creating that level of significant export business, in my personal view, is quite a challenging one. But nevertheless, not that it cannot be done, it might not necessarily be met in the timeline that was initially investigated. But I believe it can be done over a period of time, provided there's a better collaboration between private sector and the public sector. More importantly, trying to get, rather than doing something of our own here, if we can get collaborative work with the foreign players, setting up their plants here, and then getting into the located local market, which is relatively small in pharmaceutical business perspective. But then from there to export is perhaps one way of meeting this target, even if we miss up the timeline that has been set for achieve this target. So briefly touch upon the risk and the implication. Right now, the biggest challenge that we as an industry face, as much as any other industry in this country, is actually the scarcity of foreign currency, and also the volatility of the exchange rate. Now, what, as a result, being a price controlled or controlled industry, we do not have the ability to change the prices based on the cost factors. So we, as a result, if when these changes do happen, one of the biggest things, as much as Sri Lanka is facing today, is if the price increases and changes doesn't happen on time, pharmaceutical products importation kind of come to some sort of a restriction, because people don't want to do unless it at a loss, which is what we are facing today with a lot of scarcity in the market. Now, the scarcity in the market is not necessarily to do with the big currency control, but also to do with availability of dollars. Now, pharmaceutical industry is considered a priority industry, which the government has declared that, along with the fuel and the gas and the food. But nevertheless, due to the scarcity in the currency in general, we also don't get it. So there's a long waiting time for us to establish LCs and get the products. So I would say presently, the two biggest challenges that we have is scarcity and the volatility. Second is, being a controlled industry. There's also to control the number of products being registered. Now, that will be another big disadvantage to the country, because novel therapies that is available out there may not necessarily come to the market if there's a restriction of that nature, which is again being discussed and debated with the authorities to see kind of a change in that. I do understand the rationale and the logic behind being controlled so that large number of products won't come to the market. But at the same time, if it results in, for example, 10 or 20 products being registered, if nothing else can come to the market, the people will be deprived of novel therapies that is available out there. Any controlled industry has one negative impact, which is a gray market. So it's having in our case as well. But in ours, being in a pharmaceutical industry, having a gray market is quite dangerous, because it has its own safety and quality concerns. From the time it reached the country to it reached the pharmacy, and from there to the patient, there are a lot of controls that need to be adhered, practices that need to be adhered to ensure that the quality of the product remains the same until it is taken. So pre-market may not necessarily practice those. So there's a big risk of safety risk the free market, due to the free market. The other one biggest challenge we see is the absence of a pricing mechanism. Again, as I said, we have a control products, so like what is being now discussing, where the fuel having some sort of a pricing mechanism. For any control products, if price is controlled by the state, it need to have a good mechanism. If not, I mean, having a good mechanism will benefit all stakeholders, whether it's a patient, the manufacturers or the principals, the distributors, and the state. Lack of that will result in some sort of an issue. Either it's not having a logic in fixing the price. It could also be reduction in price in circumstances could change. So, but if you have a mechanism, it's a clear-cut basis as to this is how the price changes, that will help all the stakeholders rather than having an arbitrary system of fixing the prices. Okay, so next is how does pharma industry, where will it move from here to the future? In Sri Lanka, obviously, healthcare to meet as much as any nation is the top priority. The entire healthcare expenditure, now this is not pharmaceutical, entire healthcare expenditure is expected to reach 1.1 trillion rupees in 2025. At the same time, if you look at the industry that we are in the pharmaceutical, it is expected to be about 125 billion rupees in 2025. Now, these numbers will radically change for various reasons. These are the numbers that was estimated about 3 years back. These numbers will significantly change due to a lot of reasons, including significant price changes that happened during the last 5 or 6 months of the year. Stringent regulations, which is actually arguable for the industry, for the people and for all stakeholders. There is a move to establish a pharmaceutical standard authority, which will bring a lot of stringent controls and regulations governing the industry, which will result in actually benefiting the people and also having a much more controlled environment for the entire industry. And of course, as I said before, the industry is in need, desperate need for a proper pricing mechanism. If it put in place, that will benefit all stakeholders alike. The other one is NCDs. Now, the NCDs are rising in this country. Just to put some context into this, the mortality rate, which is 79% due to NCDs, is expected to go up to 83% by 2030. Now, that's a huge impact to the people, to the nation, when NCD has such an impact. So, which is something alarming. So, medication and preventing, both preventive care has a huge role to play if we have bring some controls into this pricing NCDs. Then good news is also the fact that the blockbuster drugs which were under patent are expected to move out of patents by 2025, which means those products, those patented products are naturally quite expensive, perhaps out of reach for a nation like ours. But once it moves out of the patents, what happens is the regional giants start manufacturing them, so which makes it the countries like us, people like us, much more accessible to such drugs. So these are expected to come to the country by 2025, mainly through the regional players from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So we will have access to those therapies going forward. Now, one big change we saw after the COVID is the shift towards natural healthcare products. Now, you must see, notice we have read it that, this shift has happened globally, but not too significantly. But we see that significant shift taking place now in Sri Lanka. Now, the current economic challenges that but all of us are facing in this country actually push a lot of people towards these natural healthcare products. So that's a significant shift that I've noticed during the last 2 to 3 years, and it seems to be gaining momentum, and it seems to be shifting for different reasons. The other one is, of course, the fact that the patients are extremely knowledgeable. They read a lot, they surf the net, have a lot of understanding of what the drugs that's been, or medicine that is being right to them, and they are quite more knowledgeable. As a result, they are also demanding. So that means the entire healthcare sector, whether it's doctors or it's just the healthcare professionals and the industry, like us who are importing medicine to the country, need to be a lot more careful and ensure that that these knowledgeable and demanding patients needs are met accordingly, which again, which will be much more positive in the long run for everyone in the country and as much as for the industry, because all this will result in raising the standards of the industry. So these are somewhat trends that is expected in the industry going forward. So that's pretty much which I thought I will share with you all today. And because then I'll leave the rest of the time allocated for any specific question either about the industry or any other gender. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jude. Appreciate for the trouble taken and getting a whole set of questions from different people. Let me take one by one. The first question is coming from Binuri. She works on London Stock Exchange, and she says, you have had experience in the FMCG, insurance, and now pharmaceutical. Which industry excited you the most? Jude, I think your camera and your mic is mute.
Ranta, again, I believe the screen sharing is not there.
Yeah, but you can put your camera on.
Yeah. Okay, screen is, I've taken out the screen, right?
Yes, that's fine.
I can hear you, Ranta.
Need to put the camera on, Maja.
Sorry?
Your camera is off.
Yeah, done. Is that okay? Yeah, I believe I have taken the screen out.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Lovely. Done. Okay. But so the first question you're getting is from Binuri, who works for the London Stock Exchange. She says, you have had experience in FMCG, insurance, and pharma. Which industry was your favorite?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Binuri. Well, I don't think I have a favorite industry per se. Each industry is different to each other. I guess bring about different challenges, and I guess also I think it kind of molded me differently. Each industry that I worked molded me differently. So if I'm to touch upon industry that you spoke of, FMCG. Now FMCG was quite challenging because that's the first time I moved out from being an accountant to commercial function. So it was a great opportunity because I was exposed to many other functions apart from the commercial and a lot of other functions because of the nature of my job. But I think more importantly, I learned a lot about life. The reason being that I kind of work closely with the factory staff, factory workers, warehousing workers, distribution workers, apart from the rest of the team that I work with. So it kind of grounded me a lot. Learned a lot about life as much as I learned a lot about the work and different functions in an industry. So because I also got a very good opportunity to kind of closely work with the sales, marketing, and the branding team, again, due to the nature of my job. So kind of gave me a overall knowledge about in most of the function in an organization. So I think as a result, it gave me quite a lot of self-confidence. So kind of believe in me a lot that that FMCG 10 years that I've worked at FMCG gave me a lot of that. And as much as I said, gained a lot of knowledge about many other functions. The other one you spoke of is insurance. Now, insurance kind of gave me totally different challenges. Reason, when I joined Janashakti Insurance as a CEO, actually, I never had a day's experience in insurance. So I'm an outsider to insurance, joining as the CEO with senior management who are veterans of the industry. So that's one bigger challenge. Second is it was a role which was kind of created to replace the owner manager of the business. Now he's the person who was, the part of the family who kind of was involved in the business for the last 20 plus years and build the business to be the third largest insurer player in the country. So my job is to kind of, replace him. So from new industry and also coming in to replace the owner manager was certainly not it's a huge challenge. There for me, it was more a challenge about leadership, being accepted in the system, and also bringing the different perspective to the business. Pharma, of course, very different for a few reasons. One, it's coming back home. I was at HEMAS for 10 years, moved out for about 13 years, and came back to pharma. So it's coming back. And by that time, although it's also another industry, I have gone through different industries, so I kind of, know how to manage things. So it wasn't that much of a challenge to move from insurance to pharma. So as I said, I guess all in all, I don't think I have a favorite industry per se, but each industry gave me different challenges, molded me differently, and perhaps, made me who I am today.
Jude, what advice would you give a youngster studying the master's program, given the kind of challenges that you are up against, fuel issues, instability in the marketplace for on political philosophy and policy making, a lot of issues with regard to what you mentioned, the currency. What advice would you give a youngster studying for the master's, Jude?
See, life is okay. Of course, we are all going through a lot of difficult times for many reasons. But then again, life is all about, meeting these balances and challenges, striking a balance, and kind of getting up every time you are knocked down. Success is when you kind of learn to view from different lenses and not from one of your own. And this challenging environment push us more and more to be on that, get into that direction. And winning is all about collaboration. Now, if you look at the circumstances that you spoke of, collaboration, viewing from a different perspective, different lenses, getting up every time you are knocked down, are part of our life now if we want to be successful. So I would say, as much as we are going through this challenging time, trying to learn from it, trying to face those challenges and come out with us and to be as successful, because surely this phase is going to pass. Sri Lanka not going to be like this for next 10 years. We will come out of this soon. And once you do that, you need to be ready to move from there to a much better place. And if you are to do that, this is the time to get your act together and really polish up whatever that need to be polished up in your own career, so that you are ready to take off when that time comes. So I think MBA give these opportunities for us to, in terms of classroom experience, with case study that you guys do, all these are areas that you can actually learn some of those skills that I spoke of, and be ready when time comes for Sri Lanka to take off, and you can take off along with that. But I think one more thing, it's also, I think MBA is also, when I interview people, when I ask some questions, sometimes I realize some of the students do an MBA as more on qualification rather than learning. So my advice, if you ask to me, is to, when you do an MBA, do it because you want to learn, not because you want to obtain qualification per se.
Shalindra is asking a question, Jude, and it says, what made you select a career in finance? And do you feel that finance is the route to becoming a CEO?
Okay, what made me to select the finance? Frankly, I would say I was a bit of a lost child when I did my A-levels. I was never I never entered the university. I was never selected. So soon after A-levels, I kind of frankly didn't have much of a career that had in my mind. So but then my father happens to be an accountant. My sister happens to be an accountant. So naturally, lost child in me decided, okay, I'm also going to start SIMA. And that's how I, started SIMA. So from there, actually, I got a job in finance. And my first job happens to be also an accountant, though I never had experience again in that. And from there, actually, I worked very, very hard. I would say there wasn't a particular reason as to why I selected finance, to be very frank. It happens to be because of my family had for them. Frankly, if you ask me now, I'm quite glad that I started in finance, because end of the day, as you go up the ladder, your ability to read the numbers, interpret the numbers, and kind of give the work on the strategies based on the numbers become even more important. So in that sense, I'm quite frankly happy that I started. The next question being, do you think that finance is the route to an MBA? I don't think so. And there are many successful CEOs from other disciplines like marketing, engineering, a whole lot of other areas. So there is no I don't think that's, finance is the route for a successful CEO, but your ability to read the numbers, understand the numbers, interpret the numbers in different ways actually will certainly help a good CEO to function and be successful. But it may not necessarily come from a field of finance in order to, because you're not looking at serious calculations, basically to great extent common sense and ability to read the balance sheet and the PL a lot more detail and find different ways of interpreting
that. Jude, with a finance background, going into a very strongly FMCG company like Kotmale would have been absolutely a challenge. And the question is coming from Ashani, who is saying, can you tell us about a launch, a memorable launch that you did, and we like to see how a finance interpretation of a launch and how you looked at the success of the launch is, and a little bit of thought on that.
Okay. Yeah, so Kotmale was my first move as a CEO. So that's where I joined from HEMAS. Now, I think that was the biggest risk I took in my life. I was quite established at HEMAS. I was supply chain director at that time. And Kotmale was, frankly, at that moment of time, it's in a bit of a bad shape. It was making losses. And also, it had its own share of a whole lot of other problems. And I knew of them. These are obviously like nothing is secret. And it's a public quoted company, and that's one of the reasons I joined as well. But I took the risk because I had a dream and a plan in my career, and I just decided to. Now, it's a memorable launch that you are referring. So what happened was, once I joined, I realized that the whole plan needed to be relaunched because it has lost a lot of brand equity for various reasons. But first, I had to ensure that the company is making money before we signed up going for a relaunch. So first task was turnaround, which I managed to in the very first year. it became a loss-making to a profit-making company in the first year. That enabled us to, kind of pump a lot of money behind the brand, and we relaunched the entire brand and got into a very successful campaign. And I must say, I also got a good. One of the success I also believe is I hired people from different industries to come. One the brand guy also from beer industry, from Lion Brewery, and we did a fantastic launch, extremely successful, turned the business around, turned the brand around, and the rest is some of this, the brand is doing very well now. As a result of the turnaround, we were looking for investors because it has come to a reach where we want funds to expand the business. That resulted in Cargill buying over the brand and now taking the brand to a total different place. Company is one of the strongest, I would guess the strongest dairy setup. I'm not talking about the milk powder market, but the rest of the market in the industry. So yeah, it was quite challenging and quite some of my cherished jobs, I would say, turning around that loss-making business to a profit-making one, and also taking that brand which was almost dying to something great, which is in the market today.
Same question, Jude. She's asking, what is the secret for that success? What is the consumer insight is what she's asking.
Okay, so good question. So the first thing that we did a research on that. We kind of went on to a research before we relaunched, and one thing that we realized is that it comes with a lot of huge consumer. That trust was the biggest thing the brand had. But of course, the trust on mainly through the quality. It was a challenge was the rest of the distribution, manufacturing, all that were whole around. I mean, they were out of stock, non-availability was huge, inconsistency was another, but there was a trust of the brand and the quality. So that we realized that, and also one important thing, the red cow. Red cow was something that everyone that's something which is a trigger point for every consumer. Red cow in that whole logo. So you have a trust based on quality. There is a logo which is recalled by everyone, young, old, everyone has called that brand. And then the rest is how do you bring this whole thing back onto the consumer in a much, because there's not been changed. A lot of other designs has not been changed for ages. So we kept those elements of the logo quite strongly, brought the trust and the quality aspect into the design, and relaunched it. Which it's basically brought all the past glory into the product, got people to come back to that mindset of trust based on quality. So we call it concept of your trusted dairy product, and based on that and of course I must say the campaign was another hit, although we didn't have a lot of funds to really do as cover it as much as we would have loved to, but the limited money funds that we had, the coverage we did brought about a whole lot of consumers coming back to the brand.
Interesting question from Danushi, who works at Excite. She's saying, we study a subject called risk management, and how do you assess the risk in Sri Lanka?
Well, put it this way, I mean, there's no doubt Sri Lanka is going through one of the most difficult and challenging times. I mean, if first is the fact that you admit it, there's no way we can deny it. But look at from a different perspective. As a nation, we have faced many different challenges over the years. Last 25, 30 years has been full of challenges in different forms. And we came out of it quite successfully. And I think we need to believe that this time we will come out, this time too, that we will come out of successfully. But the point is, challenges that we face as a nation today is very different to the challenges that we faced in the past. But if you are to come out of it, I think, unlike in the past, we all of us has a bigger role to play if you want to really bring about a change and come out for us to come out. Voice of yours, voice of mine matters a lot. We saw that, a few months back, how our voices, actually can play a role in shaping Sri Lanka. We need to do that. So I would say that as much as the risk is high, there's always a way out, an opportunity for us to come out of it. And I rather focus on how we could come out of it than how risky the country is, and kind of trying to curtail what we do or look at and say, no, there are a lot of challenges. Let's not trying to expand, or let's not do anything. Let's try to just protect our turf and be like this until things turn around. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. How can we play a role in bringing about a change? Because if all of us play our own role, I think we certainly can come out of it. And I rather focus on that as what our role is as individuals, as corporate leaders, rather than looking at the risks and looking at this gloomy picture and say, oh, things are pretty bad in this country, therefore we have to look at different ways of surviving this market. I'd rather not focus on that. I'd rather focus on what we could do to overcome this and move out of it. So I always, whenever someone asks that question about what is the risk, I said, let's focus how we can come out of it, and focus a lot about the risk we as a nation face, because that will only put us down and help us, will not take us forward. But if we focus on ways to come out of it, probably we can bring about different outcome, and that's what I always focus on.
So Banuka is asking, so what do we do? Do we discuss about bankruptcy because we are bankrupt as a nation, or do we turn a blind eye and look at positives? Very interesting question.
Well, again, I mean, the fact is, yes, we are bankrupt, right? It's a fact. I guess we are down in that sense, but I guess we are not out as well. I mean, okay, put it this way, look at it from a different perspective. In the field of sports, any sports for that matter, in corporate life, whether it's local or international, in personal life, young or old, rich or poor, on health, even individual health, and even economies, many countries' economies, people have gone through much bigger bad patches. They've always come out strong. So we are bankrupt. No, it doesn't mean that we as a nation actually can't come out. Countries has come out of it and prosper from a worse possible point than we are today as a nation. So what makes us to think that Sri Lanka cannot? What makes anyone to think that you and I actually can't come out of this, situation that we are in today? What makes anyone to think that we as a nation actually can't come out? So I think the fact is, yes, we are bankrupt, sadly. Fact also remains that each one of us actually start doing our role, play our role well. We will certainly come. I mean, it's a fact, right? It's hard, it's tough, but I believe it can be done. If we believe that we have a role to play rather than someone else has to deliver that change to us. That if we believe that someone else has to take us out of this bankruptcy, then we, expect someone else to do miracles for us. But if we believe that we also have a trail, all of us has different roles to play in this coming out of this. I think certainly we can. And we need to identify. The important thing is to identify our role as individuals and as our role as corporate leaders or, in a player in any of the corporates that we are working.
Jude, do you believe in Sri Lanka?
Well, I guess my previous answer clearly says certainly yes. Apart from there's no, from at least me personally, for me, there's no other country than like Sri Lanka. Certainly, this is the place in my view, and certainly this is not just because we are going through tough patch. I personally don't believe this is the time to run out of the country. Of course, you can always go out for education, a lot of stuff, but I think you need to believe in this country will come back to its glory, and believe in, all of us need to believe in the motherland, never to give up, certainly not. So yes, my short answer to is yes, I do.
So, starting as an accountant, moving into different FMCG roles, getting into insurance. So what next, Jude?
Next. Okay. Yeah. See, okay. The one thing is, actually, I have always had a personal goal or a personal dream, and a career goal or dream, whatever you call it. So I must say that I've been greatly successful in meeting those objectives, goals, dreams, whatever you call it, throughout my career so far. And I did so with a lot of hard work, and I must also say with the blessing of the God. I never said luck, because I certainly don't believe in luck. I only believe in hard work. So now I have, achieved something in my life to now. So few things that the question is, what next? Few things that I would like to do is I certainly would like to be getting to a few good boards, and one day be the chairman of a large corporate. That's something that's my next list of what I really want to achieve. That's some of my plans and some of my dreams. And I also want to get into mentoring and coaching and mentoring, purely for the purpose of sharing my experiences and my what have I gone through in my career so far, my learnings, my ups and my downs. Most my downs, I would say, so that somebody could learn from it. So I certainly want to get into that and share that with the rest. I'm very keen to get into a consultancy, but very different consultancy. My objective is, frankly, I would say that I probably get into a consultancy on a more on a FOC basis to cooperate, because I have seen this. There are a lot of upcoming entrepreneurs who started a great business and they get stuck at a different point for different reasons. And in fact, one of my MBA thesis also was actually on that. So I thought something at that time, I thought, one day I will actually kind of help these people to move out from that deadlock that they get into, will allow them to get into the next level or next league. So that's something I really want to do. Get into a consultancy, break away from that, the midpoint that they always get. Most of them get stuck, moving from that family startup to the next league. If I can share my experiences with them and help them to come out of that and become a bigger player, that is something I'd love to do, and perhaps that's something I will get into, at a later part of my career. I guess these are what I really want to do.
Good. Very interesting discussion we've had. Most of these guys are studying for a master's from Staffordshire University, and we've also seen that some of them are like postponing the exam kind of a thing. What is your take of, what's your final piece of thought that you would want to give, because end of the day, you were not the brightest kid at A levels, but you have today been a CEO of about 4 or 5 companies. So, what is your advice to a youngster?
Okay, I think the first, nothing really defined us. Your past is certainly not something that's going to define you, even if, no matter if it is good, fantastic. If it's not, you can always come out of it. That's the first thing that I would say. And in terms of the MBA, I did mention this before. Do an MBA because you want to learn, not because you want to get a qualification. Uh, uh, that's very important. There's a deeper meaning when I said that to learn, but not to get obtained qualification. It's not, the list of qualifications that you have, how much you learn out of it. Learn the MBA to become a master of multitasking, I would say, rather than becoming a master of one particular field, but by multitasking without compromising another. Of course, end of the day, yes, you are going through one of the most difficult and challenging times. Challenging personally for you, your friends, your family is extremely challenging for a whole lot of different reasons. Whatever the organization that you are working in Sri Lanka, no doubt each of those organizations are going through a tough patch. The society is going through a difficult patch. Country is going through a difficult patch. So naturally, it's kind of, it's not the greatest place to be. Tendencies to, that negativity around us make us also negative. But, you have come this far as an MBA student because you have proven your capabilities and try to believe in you, believe in your ability to continue to believe in you and continue to believe in your ability to, have that determination to move on because it's easy to give up. That's the easiest thing to do. Just say, things are tough. I'm going through a difficult patch. My parents, my family is going through a difficult patch. My organization is, I'll probably come back to this later, but I'm not going to continue. That's the easiest to do. Stay put and fight hard is my first advice to all of you. And never ever give up. If you ask me personally, I have gone through so much of challenges. Had I given up at that moment, I wouldn't have achieved a little bit of things I have achieved in my life this far. The only success is every challenge I face, I was determined to come out of it one way or the other. Second is, have a dream, have a purpose in life. Absolutely essential. If you have that, you'll never give up on anything because you have this overarching reason to say, I'm going to achieve it. This is what I want to achieve. I'm going after that dream. Things will go wrong. Things will definitely go wrong. You will fail. Take my word. You will fail. You will be disappointed. But gather yourself and start over again. And also, again, if you were to ask me my personal experience, one of the biggest success factors also is the fact that I have taken few calculated risks. Even if the entire world is against your decision, if you firmly believe that this is something you must do, no matter what, go ahead and do it. It might go wrong again, but your conviction will make you take you through. And even if it doesn't, you'll find a way out again because you believe in yourself. Whatever you do, there is very BA class, whatever you learn, make this an opportunity to learn and try to adopt them in the back-end offices that you are working. And now you will say, how do I do that? I'm marketing guy, I'm sales guy, I'm finance guy, everything else that I've learned, there's no chance under the sun for me to practice them because I'm not in that discipline. Certainly not. You can, see what others are doing and what others are not doing and learn from that. Our learning is not purely based on what we do. Our learning also comes from others. So most of the stuff that, if you ask me, perhaps something which I never did when I did my MBA, to be very frank, but I'm sharing things that I never did, I wish I would have done. when I was doing my MBA, because the task is to get over the exam and get your MBA or qualification. But I think that's a wrong way of approaching an MBA. Go through get that learning more important, because classrooms, studies, most importantly, the case studies you guys do are biggest learning grounds to learn different perspective. Focus on that and go after more and more on the learning than anything else. And of course, work hard and work smart. There's only one success. That's one core reason for anyone to be successful. That's to absolutely working very, very hard. And more importantly, I think last thing I would say is be grounded. Live a simple life that will bring you a whole lot of satisfaction and happiness to your life if your feet are firmly on the ground, no matter what you have achieved in life. If you do so, I think maybe it will bring you joy. That's what matters to all of us than anything else. Yeah, I guess that's my final take to all those bright guys who are doing MBA. And one more thing, I would say that I always had one theory in my motive. I always said that one thing I always want to do is leave behind something better than I found it. It has kept me going. It has motivated me to do things differently and be successful. It is a success that I achieved in my life. So if any of you guys feel that something that you also can adopt to, I think it makes sense. Maybe it's a good thing to adopt, to do behind something better than you found it, because it gives a different perspective and meaning to everything that you do. Yeah, and good luck with it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jude. And I mean, I'm getting a whole heap of questions. I'm trying to just control so many. Do you have time to take one question, Jude?
Sure.
It says that you in your mid career or in your career, it said that you have studied at Stanford and at INSEAD. Any particular reason you went for this program, and what did you pick up after having studied for your MBA?
Okay, both, I must say, I'm very thankful to the organization. I served in 2 different places when I went for this. It was sponsored by the organizations. So that's, I'm very grateful for both the entities that sponsored me, both places. I went at 2 different, when I was working at 2 different organizations. So again, I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for sponsoring me. That's number one. What did I learn? My biggest learning is the learning culture. We kind of do, when we did MBA, you asked the question, what did you do differently? So, I mean, that's what I kept on saying right throughout. When you do an MBA, do to learn, not for anything else. When we were studying, we were doing this, purely for the, with the exam in mind, pretty much, and qualification in mind. The learning was different. When I went to Stanford, it's all about knowledge. That's all. Lecturer comes, he talks about it, get your views. That's it. It's not that, we are given more heap of notes and everything. The learning culture is very, very different. You are supposed to be on your own. You have to, go through, study, read as much as you want, gather knowledge, and ask relevant questions, share those knowledge with others, and absorb the knowledge of others at that classroom or sessions that is conducting, and become a holistic manager. That's all it's all. Whereas here we study books, we study theories. There you learn. Big difference. And I frankly, in my first few days, I found it extremely difficult to adapt to that. And then, I realized that I have to change totally the way I look at things and approach it differently. And thank God I managed to overcome that and get through it. But I think it's all about not having the learning culture, but going through studying culture, as from A level to O level to everything. That's what we have. We are studying culture, not a learning culture. That's something I biggest difference I saw from moving from MBA to something different as well.
Thank you, Jude, and fantastic discussion that we have had. I said it is going to be only 1 hour, but whole heap of questions coming in, and You have spent almost 1 hour, 15 minutes. It just tells you how interested people were. Yeah, this is on different platforms. It's on Facebook, it's on the YouTube, and of course, these are dedicated links. So, and you have people who are on the MBA program, and there are people who are coming as guests from the past speakers who come, and then of course you have the diplomatic community who have been also involved, who come and listen to it. So you have a whole heap of people. Maybe you will get a review later on of the people who have seen you and heard you. Thank you very much, Jude, and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranta. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And of course, good luck for all of you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jude. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for that insightful session, which gave all of us some food for thought. Other than just having to think about the theories, other than just having to go behind the trends, these are very important points that we can think in terms of challenges and how to overcome them. And I'm sure our students are benefiting from this session today, and there will be quite an amount of learning for them to continue their life along with APIT, and of course, facing their challenges in the future. So this brings us to an end of another session in this series, and we would obviously like to meet you back again in another week's time. Until then, have a good time, take care of yourself, and good night from Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you.